Okay, so for this lecture, we will discuss tests for association of variables. So these are some statistical tests that we can use for testing associations between variables according to their levels of measurement. So here, as we can see, in each levels of measurement, I correspond it to their other levels of measurement. So if we have two variables, if one variable is a nominal variable and the other one is also a nominal variable, so this is the statistical test that we can use. If your data is a nominal variable and your other data is an ordinal variable, so we can use the so-called Kramer's V test. Then for nominal and interval, we can use the so-called point by serial. If one of your variable is what we call a dichotomous variable, meaning we only have two categories, and the other one is at least interval. Okay. Then for this test, so the condition would be, so one of the variable must be a nominal variable and the other one is a ratio variable. If we have two ordinal variables, we can use the so-called Spearman rank coefficient to determine the degree of association between the two variables. And for the last one, if your variables are both ratio, we can use the so-called Pearson R coefficient to determine the degree of association for the two variables. Okay, so for this example, I will show to you how to analyze this using Kramer's V. We will need to analyze if there's an association between the curriculum and the class. So we have two variables here. We have this is the curriculum. So these are the categories for the curriculum, and for the class, so we have this categories. So I already encode the data here in SPSS. So to do Kramer's V in SPSS, so we will click Analyze. Statistics, and then cross tabs. So we will see this kind of dialog box. So we put curriculum variable in the row box and class in the columns box. Okay, so do not forget to put observations in the weight case, so in the frequency variable box. Okay, so let us go back again to the analysis. Okay, so we will now click this statistics and then choose V and Kramer's V. So I'll uncheck this contingency coefficient and we will click OK, continue, and then click OK. So as you can see, so this is the result of the Kramer's B of the analysis. So we will focus here. So as we can see here, the value for the Kramer's V is 0.298. So take note that a degree of relationship or a degree of association ranges from -1 to 1. So if the value is near -1, we can say that there is a negative relationship between, or negative association between the variables. While if the value is near 1, we can say that there is a positive association between the variables. So as we can see in the value of Kramer's V, so we can say that there is a positive association between curriculum and class. Although it is not close to 1, but we have this value indicates that there is a positive association between the variables. Okay, so for the second example, we will test the association using the point biserial correlation. So as we can see in the example, so we have a dichotomous variable, gender, and we have an interval variable, post-test score. So we will analyze if there is an association between gender to its post-test score. So to do that, let us now go to SPSS. So here I already encode the data wherein I encode 0 for male and 1 for female. So let us now run the analysis. So let us click Analyze, Correlate, Bivariate. So you will see this dialog box, and then we put gender and post-test scores in the variable box. So do not forget to check Pearson. So we are almost done. We now click OK, and this is the result. So as we can see, the degree of association between gender and post-test score is 0.657. So there's a 65% degree of association between gender and post-test score. Alright, for the next example, we will now use Spearman rank coefficient to determine the association between number of visits and the mean heart rate. So this is the data. So we now go to SPSS and run the analysis. So to do that, we go to Analyze, Correlate by Variate, and then put mean heart rate and number of visits in the variable box. So do not forget to check Spearman, and you click now OK. So this is the result for the Spearman rank coefficient. So we will focus at this value, negative 0.860. So the value says that there's a negative association between mean heart rate and the number of visits. So for the last analysis, we will now go to the Pearson-R correlation. So this is the example for that. So let us read. So a student conducts a study to determine whether there is a linear relationship between the number of hours a student exercises each week and the student's grade point average or GPA. So we will analyze if there's an association or a correlation between the hours of exercise to the GPA. So we will now use SPSS to run the analysis. So I already encode the data. So now we now go to Analyze, Correlate by Variate. We put hours of exercise and GPA in the variable box, and we check Pearson, and then we click OK. So here's now the result of the analysis. So as we can see in the value, that is negative 0.164, so there is possible negative correlation between the hours of exercise to the GPA.